He gets doubled. Shaq all over him. He gets away, a fadeaway. He makes it with 4:10 left.
Many diverse things come to mind when thinking of Tim Duncan. Selflessness, wild eyes, abstinence, a bank shot, the style sense of a 47-year-old father of 3 who only shops at Costco and yard sales and who doesn't own a mirror or an iron. His total supremacy isn't what first comes to mind. Duncan is a brilliant man in his own right. Let us understand what some of the legends of the NBA have to say about Tim Duncan. What does Tim Duncan's former teammate and legend Steve Kerr have to say about him? Tim Duncan, a 15-time All-Star, was a teammate of Steve Kerr's on the San Antonio Spurs for 4 seasons, including 2 championship teams. Kerr witnessed firsthand the magnificence of Duncan while leading the Golden State Warriors. This is what Steve Kerr had to say about Tim Duncan. It's just normal for Tim to go without holding a press conference. Humility. Be humble. Kerr told ESPN's Tim McMahon, just a phenomenal teammate that was so much fun to play with. Now that Duncan's career has officially ended, the subject of where his incredible run sits in league history arises. The general consensus is that there has never been a better power forward, but according to Kerr, we might be looking at the big fundamental from the wrong angle. Kerr declared, "I think he's a center. The only reason he's referred to as a power forward is because he began his career with David Robinson. But Timmy was constantly the underdog once David left. It's all semantics, really. In any case, he is unquestionably among the all-time top 10 players. You could definitely win that debate, in my opinion." From 2000 to 2004, Duncan spent more than half of his time playing at the 4 slots. Only in 2008 did those percentages sharply shift in favor of center, as the 5-time champion played only 6% of his minutes as a power forward in the 2007-2008 season. Duncan played center field exclusively from 2009 through 2014. Just 15 of his 1,536 minutes played during his last season were as a power forward. Why is the legend Kenyon Martin marveled at seeing Tim Duncan's play? "Boy, Timmy was a problem. Some of the numbers he put up," says Kenyon Martin in response to the excellence of Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan, the 2-time MVP of the San Antonio Spurs, and Kenyon Martin of the New Jersey Nets squared off in the 2003 NBA Finals. The Nets relied heavily on Martin, a previous number 1 choice, to try to slow down Duncan. The former All-Star discussed his confrontations with TD during the 2003 NBA Finals on the podcast All the Smoke. This is what Kenyon Martin had to say about Tim Duncan. "Dog, some of the numbers that Timmy Duncan put up in the series were problematic, boy. Yes, plus obstructing everything. He went about his business. I had to guard him, so I learned how to guard people," he said. "He never once gave me that bank shot. I'd like to thank him for improving myself. Tim Duncan improved me. I became a better defender and basketball player because of him." In that series, Tim Duncan led both teams in scoring and rebounds. In a game, he averaged 17.0 rebounds and 24.2 points. He also set a finals record with an average of 5.3 blocks per game. Kenyon Martin was on some of those blocks personally. Martin claimed on the show that while this wasn't the case, Dikembe Mutombo was previously placed on Duncan by Nets head coach Byron Scott, which turned out to be a foolish move. Scott routinely sent double teams when Tim Duncan scorched the squad while having just one defender cover him. When Kenyon Martin was covering Duncan, New Jersey's help defense was more reliable, but double teaming did occur on certain plays. After the Nets defeated the Texas-based team in Game 2, San Antonio appeared to be in trouble since they had stolen home court advantage. But TD was not going to fail his team. Even though the next 3 games would be hosted by New Jersey, Duncan remained resolute. The Spurs' 2-game victory over the Hornets in New Jersey was largely due to him. Tim Duncan ended with 29 points, 17 rebounds, 4 assists, and 4 blocks in the decisive Game 5, the Nets' final home game. With a commanding 3-2 series lead, the Spurs were well positioned to win Game 6 and maybe seal the series. The former Wake Forest standout was at his best when his team, the San Antonio Spurs, were 1 victory away from winning their 2nd championship in the Duncan era. TD came up with various strategies to influence the game because the New Jersey Nets chose to let the opposition beat them. After recording an incredible 21 points, 20 rebounds, 10 assists, and 8 blocks, he helped the Spurs win another title. Following the game, a few statisticians claimed that Tim Duncan ought to have been the first player in NBA Finals history to record a quadruple-double. What does Giannis Antetokounmpo have to say about Tim Duncan? Without a doubt, one of the most well-liked NBA players in the world is Giannis Antetokounmpo. Unquestionably, the Greek Freak is a global celebrity with thousands, if not millions, of fans. But that level of fan devotion is something the two-time MVP doesn't desire, especially when he retires. Giannis Antetokounmpo expressed his desires to SiriusXM NBA Radio in an open, if somewhat humorous manner. "My goal is to resemble Tim Duncan." Tim Duncan? Where the hell is he? Tim is where? I have no idea where Tim is. I want to resemble him. Like him, I want to play the game. His words tell how much he adores Tim Duncan. It's common knowledge why he speaks highly of Tim Duncan's greatness. The renowned Tim Duncan, a power player for the San Antonio Spurs, was well known throughout the world for almost 20 years throughout his NBA career, with the exception of a single season when he served as an assistant coach for Greg Popovich. He has mainly disappeared since retiring. He didn't even show up in person to acknowledge his inclusion on the league's 75th anniversary team. The big fundamental never missed the playoffs in 19 years in a row. Duncan was a given to the basketball world when it came to watching the NBA's postseason battles. Despite being a superstar, he never sought attention from the public and ended his career without holding a news conference. Most people agree that Tim Duncan is the NBA's best power forward. TD's resume is quite persuasive. He is a 3-time Finals MVP and a 5-time champion who never missed the playoffs in his career. Duncan's ability to consistently threaten for the championship with the San Antonio Spurs throughout the Shaq and Kobe Lakers era may have been his finest accomplishment. It's possible that Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant might have won more titles if it weren't for the modest and silent player in silver and black. There are striking parallels between Giannis Antetokounmpo and Tim Duncan. They both play for small market teams, are fiercely devoted to their respective teams, and don't chase attention. Like Duncan, Giannis Antetokounmpo is simply concerned with winning and has no problem receiving intense coaching. Both are the kind of franchise stalwarts that players love to play with and are really modest and selfless. What makes Tim Duncan one of the greatest NBA players ever? Not just when playing, but also off the court, Duncan is arguably the best player in sports history. Towards the end of his career, he made a number of monetary sacrifices to support the Spurs organization in building a solid roster around him. Many greats have not contributed in the same way to their team. He performed his duties on the court with no justifications. Despite not being the most vocal player, he set an example of leadership via his play. Even at a crucial juncture in the match, he was the kind of player who would not object to being substituted by his coach. Wins were more important to him than statistics, and this is a rare attribute that should be highly respected. Tim Duncan headed one of the best teams in NBA history with these outstanding accomplishments and attributes. His San Antonio Spurs are on par with the Celtics of the 1960s under Bill Russell, the Showtime Lakers of the 1980s, and the Bulls of the 1990s with Michael Jordan. Considering all of these admirable qualities, Duncan deserves to be discussed and compared with the other greats. He is unquestionably among the top 10 players of all time and among the top 3 of the 21st century. Are you a fan of Tim Duncan? What do you think about him being called one of the greatest NBA players? Do let us know your views in the comment section. For more interesting stories and updates, subscribe to our channel and do not forget to press the bell icon for notifications. Goodbye.